Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to really get into a massive new campaign. It's been launched by China's top internet regulator. And what makes this really crucial, I think, is the target. They aren't just going after, political dissent like we often see. No, this time they're cracking down on feelings.
Yeah, it sounds a bit strange, right? But that's essentially it. The Cyberspace Administration of China, the CAC, they announced this 2-month regulatory blitz starting back in September 2025.
Right.
And it really does go beyond standard censorship. It's aiming directly at what they're calling negative outlooks on life.
So why? Why is this powerful state body suddenly policing, well, despair?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We're seeing the state trying to manage public sentiment really on an unprecedented scale. The CIC was explicit. They said the campaign targets two things: malicious incitement of conflict and language promoting world weariness.
World weariness.
Exactly. And this isn't just like advice. It's backed by strict penalties for the big platforms if they don't manage this content aggressively enough.
Yeah. Okay, so for you listening, here's what we're going to do. We'll unpack these two specific kinds of banned content. We'll also dive into the surprising economic reasons why pessimism is suddenly seen as, well, a threat. And then we'll connect this temporary crackdown to the bigger picture and the new, permanent digital controls, like that national internet ID system, which are really changing things online. All right, let's start with those two main categories. First up, conflict incitement. What does that actually mean in practice online?
Well, fundamentally, it's about stopping online friction from escalating. Conflict incitement means regulating how trending topics get weaponized. So using it to link specific groups, maybe based on identity, region, or gender, with negative, stigmatizing stories.
Like posts about local discrimination, maybe? Or things just meant to stir up trouble?
Precisely. Things designed solely to fan the flames of some existing social argument.
Got it. And the second category, they called it vicious currents. That sounds more like standard misinformation, right? Falsehoods and rumors.
It is, yes, but it's very targeted. They're focusing specifically on rumors in high-impact areas. The economy, finance, social welfare, public policy, things that could really shake public confidence.
So stopping specific kinds of digital chaos.
Exactly. Things like posts inciting clashes between fan groups, people selling doxing techniques, spreading totally fabricated info, or, those sensational conspiracy theories that could genuinely disrupt public order.
We actually saw an interesting example of how broadly they're applying this conflict rule earlier this year, didn't we? It involved comedians.
Yeah, that was telling. It shows just how wide the net is. Back in July, local authorities in Zhejiang province actually stepped in. They cautioned comedians about stirring up gender discord in their acts.
In their performances, not just online posts.
Right. It signals this isn't just about Weibo posts. It covers all sorts of public expression, even live entertainment, if they think it's raising social tensions.
So the overall goal, officially stated by the CSC, is what?
To foster a more civilized and rational online environment. That's the official line.
Okay, let's unpack this crackdown on pessimism, because honestly, this is the part that feels newest, maybe most surprising. Usually censors look for clear challenges to power, right? Explicit dissent. But now, the state seems to be treating a cultural mood, this online tiredness, this despair, like a political problem. How does that work? What makes lying flat a threat?
Well, this is where you really see economic anxiety driving state policy. It's fascinating. The campaign explicitly targets posts that hype up pessimism and negativity. They even called out specific phrases like hard work is useless or studying is useless.
No.
This is a direct counterattack against what's often called sang culture, basically defeatist trends among young people.
We've heard that term lying flat, tangping, that's part of it.
Absolutely. That and his cousin letting it rot Balin. These aren't just memes, they're cultural statements.
Yeah.
You have young, often highly educated people rejecting that intense, high-pressure 1996 work culture.
9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week.
Yeah, right. They're opting for more relaxed, less ambitious lives instead. It's almost like they're refusing to play the game if the effort doesn't seem worth the reward anymore.
And the economic backdrop explains why the government sees this as, well, almost subversive.
Precisely. These trends didn't come out of nowhere. They're rooted in the high cost of living, a pretty sluggish economic growth rate lately, and that persistent, really worrying youth unemployment problem.
Right.
So when a whole generation is struggling to find good jobs, even with degrees, that online talk about hard work being useless, it naturally hits a nerve. It resonates.
And for the authorities.
For them, this online negativity is a threat. It undermines the basic social contract, stability and prosperity in return for political quiet. If people start lowering their expectations en masse, that's seen as destabilizing.
And it's not totally brand new, this focus on sentiment, is it? I remember Weibo was already warning users about pessimistic economic posts late last year.
That's right. This September 2025 crackdown is really just a huge, much more formalized escalation of that same kind of sentiment management.
Okay, so it's bigger and more official now.
Exactly. And the key tactical shift now is the focus isn't just on deleting posts. It's about holding the platforms themselves accountable, financially, politically.
Right. How are they enforcing compliance then? Penalizing the platform?
Yes, that's the main lever. In just this 2-month period, 3 huge platforms got hit with disciplinary actions or penalties because they supposedly neglected their content management duties. We're talking about the microblogging site Weibo, the short video app Kuaishou, and Xiaohongshu, that's the Instagram-like one, often called Red Note.
And the sources said they were accused of promoting things like celebrity news and other undesirable content. That sounds incredibly broad.
It is very broad. Warnings went out to Weibo and Kuaishou in late September. Xiaohongshu faced action a bit earlier that month. Now, the exact nature of the penalties, fines, maybe other restrictions that hasn't been made public, but the message to these big tech firms is crystal clear. You must moderate aggressively, even if it hurts your user engagement numbers. If you don't, there will be serious consequences. Platform accountability is the name of the game here.
It's still kind of jarring, though, seeing the state police things like celebrity gossip or, someone having an accident. It just shows how wide that net is. There was that real-world example involving the actor Yu Long, which illustrated how seriously they take even simple rumor mongering.
Yeah, that case is important context. It shows they aren't messing around when it comes to maintaining public order. So Yu Long had an accidental fall after drinking. Pretty mundane. But then 3 individuals apparently fabricated info, spliced together fake videos about him dying, and pushed those rumors out just to get clicks.
Yeah.
Afterwards, the police actually took compulsory measures against those individuals. The justification was disrupting public order. So that kind of high-profile action sends a really strong message. Spread chaos online, even if it's just about some celebrity mishap and the police might come knocking. It's not just about the platforms. Individuals can face action too.
Okay, so that's the immediate crackdown.
Right. But now we need to shift gears a bit. We need to look beyond this temporary 2-month campaign. Let's talk about the permanent systems being built to control online discourse for the long haul.
That permanent infrastructure, starting with the big one, the new National Internet ID system. This really does sound like a fundamental shift, potentially ending online anonymity as we know it.
It's definitely restructuring the digital landscape, yeah. This system, it was developed jointly by the Ministry of Public Security, the police, and the CASE. It went fully into effect on July 15, 2025.
We already had real name verification under the 2017 cybersecurity law, though, right? How's this different?
It's much more integrated, more centralized. So yes, real name rules existed. But now, users have to register through a specific app, the National Online Identity Authentication app. You need your national ID card, you need facial recognition, and in return, you get a unique web number and a web certificate.
Okay, so every single thing you do online, which was already kind of linked to your real name, is now also tied to this standardized state-issued web certificate. What are the implications? What are rights groups worried about here?
Well, the main concern is that it's a major escalation in controlling free speech. Anonymity online is really important for dissent, for privacy, sometimes just for personal safety. By tying every digital footprint back to this central state-issued web number, the surveillance net gets significantly tighter. As some researchers have pointed out, this kind of infrastructure could potentially allow the state to, directly erase voices it doesn't like from the internet by simply deactivating that person's core web number or certificate. Your official online identity could just disappear.
That is a massive increase in control potential. And alongside this ID system, the sources also highlighted brand new rules specifically targeting religious discourse online.
That's right. These came out in September 2025, published by the National Religious Affairs Administration. They lay out really tight restrictions on how faith can be discussed or shared online. The goal seems to be institutionalizing state control over religion in the digital sphere.
What's the main role?
The core restriction is that clergy priests, imams, monks, pastors, whoever, can only preach or provide religious education online through registered religious organizations. And those organizations need a special license, an Internet Religious Information Services license.
So if you're a religious leader, you can't just use your personal Twitter or do a live stream or run a private WeChat group for teaching.
Nope. Explicitly forbidden for religious instruction.
Yeah.
You have to use the official licensed channel, period.
Wow. What else do the rules say?
There are several other really striking bans. For instance, you're forbidden from using generative AI to create or spread religious content.
Interesting. AI is specifically mentioned.
Yes. Also, strictly prohibited from spreading religious ideas to minors online. And, maybe most significantly, there's a mandate for ideological alignment with the Chinese Communist Party.
That's the sinicization policy we hear about, right? Making religion more Chinese.
Exactly. Sinicization basically requires all religious teaching and content to align with and actively support the state's political goals. It's a loyalty test, essentially, for anyone providing religious content online.
And does this apply only to clergy inside China?
No, that's another critical point. The rules explicitly state they apply to all clergy whose content reaches China. So foreign clergy, if their sermons or writings are accessible within China, they also need to comply or potentially face consequences. So you put it all together, what these sources really show is this comprehensive two-pronged strategy for digital governance. On one side, you have these immediate, intense, but temporary crackdowns focusing on social mood, like the current one targeting pessimism and conflict.
And on the other side, you've got the deliberate long-term construction project, building this permanent, high-control infrastructure, things like the National Internet ID system to basically eliminate anonymity, and these very specific new regulations to control sectors like religion.
Right. It feels like an escalating effort to manage not just what people do online, but the entire atmosphere, the public feeling.
Okay, so key takeaways for you listening today. First, the crackdown's most surprising target is this mood of world weariness and pessimism, and it seems deeply connected to real economic anxieties among young people. Second, major platforms Weibo, Kuaishou, Xiaohongshu are already being penalized for not policing this stuff aggressively enough. Accountability is key. And finally, that new digital ID system represents a fundamental shift. The erosion of online anonymity is becoming essentially permanent state infrastructure, making surveillance easier and control potentially much tighter.
Which raises a final important question, I think, something for you to consider as you reflect on all this. The sources point out that China announces these kinds of temporary campaigns quite regularly, apparently at least 5 since just 2021. So even though they're building this increasingly sophisticated digital control toolkit, the facial recognition IDs, the mandatory platform moderation, all of it, what does the repeated need for these short-term, high-intensity crackdowns tell us?
What does it suggest about their actual ability long-term to really manage those underlying public feelings, that deep-seated economic anxiety?
Exactly. Maybe the problem they're trying to fix isn't just digital. Maybe it's more structural.
Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.